So hello guys, today we are going to talk about the primitive type of variables in Java. What are those? What are the various categories of primitive data types and what they actually hold and what are the sizes of the primitive variables? So let's begin. Now the variables in Java are basically of three types. The first is the Boolean. That means you're going to store either true or false value in it. The second is the character itself, means any single character, that means A, O, capital A, small a, or any kind of symbol that you want to store inside the memory for the program. And the third is the numeric. Now this is the one of the widely used kind of a data type, now in which you can store either the negative number, a zero, or the positive range of numbers. Apart from this, you can either store decimal like these as well. So to store these kinds of value in Java, you require a variable. A variable is simply a container that is going to contain a data that you're going to store. For the simplicity, I'm using brown for the Boolean, and this container can either hold true or false. Now the second is the character. For numeric data type, you have byte, short, int, long. Again, for the sake of simplicity, blue is for byte, smoke is for short, indigo for integer, and lavender for long. Now these are the containers that is going to hold your negative number, zero, or a positive range. But for decimal number, you're going to use float or double. And remember this, as you move forward from left to the right, the size of the variable also increases. Now the first unit that you need to pay attention is bits. According to bit, you can have an idea of which container stores the longest range of values inside it. So let's have a look how many bits of data they can actually store in. And as you can see, as you move forward from left to right, the range or the bits increases, means the longest number that a numeric data type can hold is of 64 bits, a large number, a very large number indeed. And if you take byte for storage, that means only 8 bit of data can be stored. Now bits are basically the combination of 1 and zeros that are used to produce a value inside a computer. Now as you can see that the integer is capable of holding a number that can be expressed by using 32 bits. A float is also capable of holding a number that can be expressed by simply using 32 bits. Now if a number requires 33 bits of combination, that means it cannot be put inside the float, then you're going to go for a bigger range. That means you can store the same number that requires 33 bits into double. The Boolean is basically of 8 bits, but the Java says that the size of the Boolean, it depends upon the type of JVM we are using. If you are using the 32-bit architecture of the JVM or the Java itself, or we are using a 64-bit software architecture of Java. When we talk about bytes, we say that it is the amount of space that a variable is going to occupy inside the memory. Memory can be a disk drive, a memory card, or simply your SSD that you're using nowadays. So a byte consumes 8 bits, that means 1 byte. A short consumes 16 bits, that means 2 bytes on the disk drive. Now float consumes 32 bits. And if you divide 32 by 8, you will get 4, that is the byte size. Again, for the Boolean, it is JVM specific. Now there are a set of rules that you need to follow when you're going to name a variable. You can always begin the name with a letter, you can begin with an underscore, or even you can use a $sign. And after the first character, according to the first rule, you can continue using numbers as well, or you can go for camel casing. Now you need to be very precise about what to not use when you're going to name a variable. Don't begin with a number. 1x is not allowed, 2x is not allowed, one name is not allowed. Okay, and you should not have spaces between the words that you're going to use. And remember this, you shall never ever use a Java reserved keywords. Let's have a look at the examples to better understand the concept of naming. Now remember this, if you're going to store a character type of a value, then it should be put inside the single quotes. Okay, so the tab become the character, the name is FIRST first, and the value is capital A. Now you can also store a negative number inside any of the numerical variables, since signed integer is also allowed in Java. Signed means you can go for positive as well as you can go for negative, and here we are using short as a data type. Instead of using an alphabet or a word for a name, we are directly using $, and it is 100% allowed in Java. We have put 1.5 inside integer. The 0.5 will be left alone, only 1 will be put inside the integer. Now this is called casting. We will discuss casting in the later video, but for now understand this, that if you're using wrong value and if a JBL is capable of making it correct, then it will try it first, and if it fails to do that, it will throw an error. Now once you have used the begin rules for a naming of variable, you can go for a camel casing. As you can see over here, the num is combined with the phone and the n is the capital. Now if you're going to store a long type of value, that means a very long set of integer value, you need to put L in the end. Now for the float, you're going to do the same, you put a F in the end of the value. Now float is designed for decimal values, so this is 100% correct, and you can go for underscore after the word also, and it is absolutely fine. Supposingly if 2 was present over here instead of underscore, the JVM would throw an naming error. So remember this, never begin your name of the variable with a numerical and you're good to go. Since every keyword has a predefined set of functionality, if you put a name, for example int volatile is equals to 1, the JVM will get confused that whether you're naming a variable as volatile or you're calling a volatile functionality. So the Java puts restriction on using the fixed Java keywords as a variable name. So until unless you're not using any of the keywords present in the table, you're good to go. Now let's have a look at some of the bad examples of variable naming. As you can see, the 1 is present in the starting of the name. It is incorrect. You cannot use @, you cannot put a negative sign for using a negative variable, you can not use asterisk or hash. The capital naming convention is reserved for some special purpose, and that special variable is called a constant. So until unless you're designing a constant, you should 100% avoid capital naming conventions. Now this you should 100% avoid. You cannot put a space between the words that you're going to use for the variable naming. 100% the compiler will throw an error. Even after you have begun the correct naming style, you cannot use @ in the middle of the words also. So this is incorrect. And again you see over here, P is capital, N is capital, 2 is fine. The position of numerical in this example is fine, and P is capital. Again, if you're thinking that the compiler will throw an error, it will not. But you should avoid using capital letter for naming a variable, as it is reserved for special purpose. That's it for today, and thank you.